must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
First of all, let me thank you. I've prepared 2 papers which I believe will be circulated because they'll not be projected. But if you can see, first of all, I want to agree with the Honorable Minister. I've done 2 pictorials. One of them is described as Africa at the dinner table. And if you look at Africa at the dinner table, Africa is on a plate and it is meat. And the diners at the dinner table are France, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, the Chinese, and progressively the Arabs. And my second picture is the African hotspots. It's not visible from there. But if you look at Africa today, and you make a clean sweep with your mind, there are different conflicts of different intensity in Somalia, in northern Mauritania, in northern Mali, in Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Guinea-Bissau, in the Cameroons, in South Sudan, and one can go on and on. And there is a sense in which Africa has always been alive to the question of interference. I will refer this audience, particularly those who are starting, to take time and read the 32 odd speeches that were made in the month of May 1963 by the then heads of states and government of independent African states, the 32 of them. And there are 2 speeches that I want to isolate for this presentation. One was by David Dacko of Central African Republic. And in thanking Emperor Haile Selassie and Kwame Nkrumah on that day, he said that we must never forget that the colonial power has not left us. We must recognize that he did not go willingly. And if we don't check them, they'll come back again. And what would little Central African Republic do against them? Today, he is right. Today, if we remember the activities of France and how they have propped up the regime of Jean-Bedel Bokassa, he was right. Today, as the Honorable Minister has indicated, Africa remains the only continent in the world that is referred to in these terms, Anglophone, to mean that we are a sphere of our erstwhile colonizers. About 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting of the Commonwealth in London, England. And a friend of mine who is an Anglophile sent me the photographs very gleefully, saying this is a meeting of 53 equal states. I told him, no. If it was so, why is it that the leadership of the Commonwealth is hereditary rather than rotational? In other words, in the minds of the British, her former colonies are still under her tutelage. And I want to submit to us that in the minds of what I'll call the conceptual West, they think they have a divine duty to instruct Africans what to do. True. And in the minds of many African leaders, they think that they have a divine duty to accept what they are told. That, in my view, is what the Honorable Minister was talking about, the mindset. And this is something that has been examined We have seen France and its very pernicious presence in Africa. We know what they did in Burkina Faso against Thomas Sankara. We know what they did in Mali or the Sudan against Modibo Keita or against Sekou Touré in Guinea. Pernicious to the core. The Portuguese, we know what battles had to be fought in that area. And let me put this very bluntly. When the former leader of Portugal, Marcelo Caetano, was asked, why can you not allow the colonies to gain independence? This is what he said in substance. As I have examined world history over the years, the following have emerged: that the Caucasians have been responsible for monumental discoveries in the development of man. So have the Chinese, so have the Arabs. But the Africans have been responsible for nothing. They are only fit as hewers of wood and drawers of water. And I want to submit to you who are present here that in the conceptual West's unguarded moments, or guarded moments, that is what they think. And that is how they relate to Africa. So the whole idea that they will interfere is something that they think is their God-given duty. I said there were two speeches in 1963 that I wanted to refer to. I referred to David Dako. The second one was the speech by Kwame Nkrumah. And Kwame provided the solution. He did not complain about colonialism. He said, we must live here with one army, with one command. We must live here with one currency. We must live here with one currency, one country. I do not know where its capital will be, but I suggest Leopoldville or Bangui. Other leaders may have their thoughts. Kwame was right, but who listened to him? Several years down the line, and I've said it in my paper, there were coup d'etats which were engineered, there were mutinies which were engineered, and other forms of destabilization. And I want to believe that the person who actually said it very well in the 1980s was the former American President Ronald Reagan. He said, the United States of America does what is in her best interest. And I agree with him. Does Africa do what is in her best interest? Do African leaders do what is in the best interest of Africa? Interference will be there in very blatant and brazen ways and in subtle ways. I've always asked, until very recently, how many African countries manufactured bullets? Very few. Until very recently, how many African countries, in fact, how many African countries manufacture jet fighters? How many African countries are involved in the arms industry? Some of the leading conceptual West countries which pontificate to us about prizes, peace prizes, are the leading manufacturers of landmines. And if you look at their foreign exchange earners, it is the military and security items. So they say with their mouths, what do they not believe in their hearts? In Kiswahili we say, vita vya panzi furaha ya kunguru. That when the locusts are fighting, it is the joy of the hawk. Because when they kill each other, they get the food easily, dead. It is in the best interest, I dare submit, without fear of contradiction, that the elite in the conceptual West does not want Africa to stabilize, despite their assertion to the contrary. And you'll see it in every country because conflict is a major industry. Today, you look at South Sudan and the many peace conferences that are being held, but if you ask who supplies the arms, who provides safe havens, it is the conceptual West. And when I use the term conceptual West, I'm saying that it extends to countries which are geographically not in the West, like Australia or Canada. So I'm submitting in answer to your question, Joe, that interference is there, and it is part, to use this old cliche, of the neo-colonial project. The neo-colonial project requires that Africa must remain within the sphere of influence of these states. Today, if you look at the United Kingdom, which has left Europe, one would have thought that those are their cousins and that they should sit in comfort with them. You will now see their involvement being de-emphasized in Europe and their interest and appetite growing towards the Commonwealth. Because in the Commonwealth, they are the major domos. They'll tell us what to do. In Europe, they have to grapple with the Germans and the French, and they don't like it. That is the unspoken bit of it. The French also are in Europe, but the Germans are too strong, and they don't like it. So they want to hold Côte d'Ivoire, Gabon, and tell them what to do. I do not know how many of you saw the press conference that was attended by President Macron of France and Nana Addo of Ghana. And when Nana Addo spoke as an African should, you could see the body language of the French president. How dare this man speak this way? In other words, I'm saying that interference is the mother's milk of European economies. But to answer your second question, they have their own recruits who Professor Philip Nying'ura will be speaking here. To use the old vocabulary of those days, they are the people you call their compras de bourgeoisie. You must remember. The compras de bourgeoisie are Africans with black faces, but essentially they are doing the bidding of these powers. They are the ones you'll find them in different spheres. And they will be present. They are in your cabinet, but they are actually representatives of the foreign intelligence agencies of those countries. We know this. If you look at the declassified papers from the United States, we now know that some of leading cabinet ministers in many African countries were working for the CIA or some Western agencies. So you are sitting in cabinet, and in these days of the mobile phone, they are possibly texting their masters in Europe and America. So interference is also exacerbated by these compras de bourgeois for their own benefits. And it has never changed, Honorable Minister. In the early days of slavery, they gave some of the chiefs mirrors and alcohol. Today, what they give them are flats in Paris or in Dubai. And that is what makes them undermine Africa. The third mode of interference is through institutions. Look at the competition as it is now. There is a new entrant into the market that is called China. China is very subtle. Many people wrote the obituary of Rwanda in 1994. 20 years down the line, it has been demonstrated that Africans can actually do it. Between 1983 and 1987, I think Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso also demonstrated that it can be done. We saw in Somalia, despite their problem. So my prescription is African unity. Africa must now begin to negotiate initially in terms of blocks, SADC, ECOWAS, East African Community, and ultimately as African Union. And lo and behold, we must do it. And I've always said this cliche, we must do it, because if we don't do it, we will be done. Thank you.
Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much, viewers. This is radio, this is television, this is Pan-African Station, a think tank of the African people, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi. Viewers, wherever you are, this afternoon is a special program that touches all of us. It touches African leaders. It touches the African leadership. It touches the entire continent. The entire continent that has been captured by a superpower in Europe. The entire continent whose all what we do here, what they do here is to cause us trouble. The entire continent that is in the hands of the Libyans are killing each other. There is no water in Tripoli. The entire continent has been captured by one nation in Europe, France. Therefore, today, I am here following that report that I gave out last year when the heads of state met in Addis Ababa. I brought up part one of the investigative report into the espionage created, supported, equipped by a non-African power outside, killing our African credentials, killing our African programs. Today, I bring you the third part. Part 3 is very interesting. The investigations are detailed with data, bank accounts, where money goes into officials of the African Union. They keep it. One country pays them. They do all the things against us. They spy on our African leaders who fly, who are not spied on at home. They create wars on this continent. They facilitate wars on this continent. Fellow Africans, I have told you that a regime change is approaching in Africa, supported, equipped, supplied by George Soros. George Soros is supported, equipped, and well guarded by the French. The two work together in the stabilization of Africa. If you look at what is happening in Sudan, you will find that what has happened in Sudan is laughable. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt are on the side that is supporting the military. On the other side, you find George Clooney, Pendergast, and George Soros supplying, plus France, supplying the demonstrators in the streets of Khartoum from N'Djamena, the capital city of Chad. The supply line is never ending. One can ask a question that if the Sudanese were saying there was no bread, where is the bread coming from that has kept them on the picketing line for 4 months? Who is paying the school fees for their children? Who's teaching the children in the schools? Who's working in the offices? Who pays the rent? I want Africans to understand that as much as we don't have smooth democracy, after all, there is no smooth democracy. There is no pure democracy. Even in Britain, there are certain things that you cannot do and you can do. Therefore, democracy has never been pure. There is no Safi democracy, which is pure democracy. It has hiccups. But when you look at the game plan, which is being played in in the capital city of Khartoum of Sudan, one is left with nothing but to tell the world that enough is enough. Viewers, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. And before I do that, I want to play one African song. One African song from the Democratic Republic of Congo. That song will give us the impetus. That song will give us the energy to liberate Africa. That song will give us the stamina to do the things that we want in the continent. That song will give us the energy to stand up and say African Union is our organization, not a non-power organization. That song comes from Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember, Democratic Republic of Congo had the first casualty of imperial machinations that destroyed Patrice Lumumba. Today, as we sit here and we talk, the Africans in Congo have never buried Patrice Lumumba. They yearn for the day that Patrice Lumumba's grave will be found and he will be buried, so that Congo stops bleeding, so that the Congo stops exporting minerals, so that the Congo builds roads, so that the Congo can have democracy, so that the Congo stops wars. If Patrice Lumumba is anywhere, let them bring him to us and we bury him so that we cleanse Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, from Mabutu, from Tshombe, from everybody, Kapumbi, from all of this. They killed Congo. But where have you taken Patrice Lumumba? We cry for him. We want him to be brought back so that we cleanse Congo from the conflicts. The conflict that is creating Rwanda and Uganda to fight is a result of Congo. The divisions of minerals that we have in Congo has brought us where we are today. Fellow Africans, wherever you are, in Addis Ababa, in Cape Town, in Harare, be aware, beware, my people, that there are those plotting regime change. The regime change plotted, supported, equipped by our own African Union. African Union subjected to the whims of an imperial power, given the magnitude of which the damage has been done on our institution and institutions of security in Africa. Let me play the song that will give us the energy, and then we sing together as it goes. It is both in Lingala and then translated in English. Those who can sing in Lingala, those who can sing in French, actually it's French and English, can do so. Those of you who were around by that time, there comes the song.
Panda Africa, oh liberté. Oh kata toni pasi, soki na kati, oteka pasi. lisusu oyo naponaka bawela bokonzi mpe na babwatilio bavoti ntango ekomaka ngai nakomi moto mpona bango
Viewers, that song is dedicated to the people, the heroes of Africa who have fallen as a result of the fight against imperialism, neocolonialism, and all types of mercantile capitalism that have come, that invaded the entire continent of Africa, destroyed the continent, killed the continent, maimed people, left us hopeless, dying in Mediterranean Sea. That song encourages us to fight on. That song gives us the courage as Africans. It says, how can we fix Africa? Those who understand Lingala in Congo will tell you, how do we fix Africa? How can Africa be fixed? Today, I want to take this opportunity to tell you that this is my part 3 investigative report into the affairs of African Union. The African Union that has been captured by a non-African power state, funded members, allowed women to be molested sexually, allowed money to be injected in from foreign bodies, recruitment, bias, security breaches that have brought African Union to a questionable institution. The African Union on Friday sacked one of the leading conspirators and one of the few malcontents who has been used by France to spy on the African Union. We want to take this opportunity to thank the African Union Commission for having read our report and our piece, an investigative piece that we as Africans and myself on behalf of Pan-African Forum, United Kingdom Limited, presented to them last year. In this report last year, I made it very clearly and categorically stated that there was espionage going on in the African Union headed by one Gassim Wen, the chief of staff and the chief advisor to the chair of the African Union, Mr. Muhammad Faki. This report, therefore, exonerates me. The sacking of Mr. Gasimu Wen as the chief advisor and as a chief of staff in the office of the African Union chairperson vindicates me, and I want to thank all the investigative mechanisms that took place internally in the African Union with all the data that we have received for having done a very great job in sacking Mr. Gasim Wen. Remember, in the first place, in the first report, I made it clear that Mr. Gasim Wen is the pinpoint, the point man, the focal point of the French infiltration and the capture of the African Union. Through the French DSG systems, Mr. Gasim Wen has been used, who is the main contact in the chairperson of African Union, as evidence in this report will entail. The report is a detailed report. It touches on a number of things, including Libya, Southern Cameroon, the conflict in South Sudan, the conflict in Khartoum, the conflict in Central African Republic, the conflict in Libya, which I've said already. The report is huge with all what has been happening. As we speak today, this report was filed yesterday. It has all the details of how the African Union has been compromised, how the security of African Union has been compromised by the said Chief of Staff in the office of African Union chairperson. Viewers, in the context of Pan-African Forum, we welcome the dismissal on 21st of May 2019, Mr. Eli Gasimu Wen, the Chief Protocol, Chief of Staff, Chief Advisor of the AU Commission, following a publication of our first document that incriminated him as the conduit of the French-sponsored external espionage activities in the AU. At that time, not very many people could listen to us. We were forced to abandon, and some of them abandoned us, and we are told we are telling lies. It has taken African Union 1 year, 1 good year, for the African Union to discover that what we told them, and after delivering the second report, which is very clear that there was still money paid to officers and officials of the African Union from a certain non-European, non-African state. This report, therefore, we want to take the opportunity to congratulate the new Chief Advisor and the Chief of Staff in the office of the African Union chairperson, the former Foreign Minister of Mali, Mr. Diop, who will take over the position, and we want to thank you, as Mr. Diop has been patriotic. He has rejected several attempts by external forces to influence him. We hope he will work for the African Union and for the interest of the people of Africa. We have done our quick checks as a body, a people's body that speaks on behalf of the people of Africa. The background checks on Mr. Diop and we say we deliver him to you ye, he hasn't got anything attached. In any case, he hates his former colony. It is of great importance, therefore, that Pan-African Forum wishes to thank the people of Mali and our Malian brother, Ambassador Diop, who is very fluent in English and French, that he will be able to analyze and sensitize the people of Africa to achieve the Agenda 2063, to remove corruption, to remove espionage, to remove unemployment on the continent, to give us African passports, as we have always asked for these passports, but they keep on going and coming, going and coming. We want also to take this opportunity to thank the organizers, the deputy, especially the deputy chairperson of the African Union from Ghana, the man who has tirelessly worked day and night to make sure that the dream of Kwame Nkrumah, the dream of Sekou Touré, the dream of Haile Selassie, the dream of Nyerere, the dream of Jomo Kenyatta, the dream of Amir Cabral, the dream of General Gabriel Nansa, the dream of Patrice Lumumba does not go in vain. We want to thank you for the good work that you have done to maintain the decency of keeping African Union intact from being sold to colonialists at 12 pences per each document. Viewers, the release of this dossier now, which you see here, has precipitated African Union to appoint a new AU Chief of Staff. In respect to all that we have done, we want to thank all our contacts that gave us data, those who gave us information, all those who have worked hand in hand with us in supplying information, all the women that were molested, sexually harassed, all those who were told to give their bodies before they get the work. We want to apologize and thank you very much for the information that you have given, that we can only share this type of information with a commission of inquiry that will be constituted to find out why these things happened in the presence of the chairperson, Muhammad Faki, who is part of the game of capture of African Union. Viewers, as you can see, following the release of our second dossier in February, on 8th February, 2 days before the extraordinary summit of the African Union of 10th to 11th February 2019, a series of crisis meetings took place in the African Union headquarters with an effort of trying to salvage the situation. One of the outcomes of these panic confabulations was initiative by the General, then Chief of Staff, Eli Gasimu Wen, to hurriedly arrange a meeting between the chairperson of the African Union and the authorities of one of the foreign powers other than France. The strategic publication relations that was meant was to make sure that these reports are not heard. But we want to thank our contacts within the African Union that you have done us good, that you have delivered what cannot be delivered to anybody except to ourselves. that you have given us the data. You gave us the days, the nights that we undertook to collect data, to piece together the data that we want to put to the world. There is nothing of a witch hunt here. These are facts that are happening in the African Union. I want to quickly touch on, first of all, to allow me as the founder of and the CEO of Pan-African Forum to make a quick comment on the crisis that breaks my heart. An unnecessary crisis that has been described by the Norwegian Refugee Council and other humanitarian organizations as the worst and the most rapidly deteriorating security and humanitarian catastrophe in Africa. By his own admission, keep the United States Under Secretary of State for African Affairs, Thabo Nage, awake every night, namely the conflict in southern Cameroon. That's one. The other two being Somalia. That's two. The other one being South Sudan. That's three. The most worrying one amongst those is the Libyan situation. Allow me to begin with the South Sudan, South Cameroon, the Southern Cameroon conflict. Fellow Africans, the African Union chairperson is helpless, moves from one capital to the other, while the people of Southern Cameroon die on a day-night basis. The situation in Southern Cameroon calls for African Union to rise up and show leadership, resolve the conflict of Southern Cameroon. I would like to categorically state here that the people of Amazonia suffer from the hands of a dictator who kills them, cannibalizes them, eats them, destroys their houses, cuts their throats. But as we sit here, as I speak today, the entire continent is watching, keeping quiet, because African Union head chairperson is a French puppet who cannot condemn the French activities in southern Cameroon. Dear listeners, United Nations Security Council, in their meeting in New York on Monday 13th May 2019, the year of our Lord, sat to discuss the worsening situation in the crisis of southern Cameroon. To our surprise as Africans, the United Nations of Africa, called AU, have not sat down to discuss the worsening humanitarian human rights abuses that are taking place in southern Cameroon. Instead, the chairperson from Chad, Mr. Mohamed Faki, goes to Cameroon, to Yaoundé, goes to Paris to welcome Macron, goes to look for money. Remember, the southern Cameroon people have been calling upon Mohamed Faki to convene a meeting about southern Cameroon. He has not done so. In our investigations, we discovered that this has been blocked by the presence of Mr. Mohamed Faki, contacts with the French government, and the workings between him and the President Paul Biya. It is a shame, therefore, that thousands and thousands of refugees are flocking in the capital cities of Africa, including the one in Kenya. We have so many Cameroonian refugees in Uganda, in Kenya, who are running away from the dictatorship of Mr. Paul Biya. And African Union has not sat down to discuss the deteriorating situation in that Central African state. That is conflict number one. Viewers, I want to touch strongly on conflict number 2, which is Algeria, Libya, and Sudan. The situation in Algeria is a situation that worries African Union. To date, there is no delegation that has visited Algeria to advise on to what extent can these demonstrations and to give guidance, even if it is not interfering with the internal affairs as per the charter regulations. If you what has happened, the genocide in southern Cameroon, the happenings in Algeria on the streets, you will find that we have done our job as journalists, investigative journalists, to put to you that African Union sold its rights to the French people, and they have been told never to touch the capitals or the former colonies once there is a conflict. It is sad, therefore, for Africans to pretend that we have an African Union, yet this African Union cannot solve any issue that touches a French colony at all. The gentleman from Chad has let us down. When we go down to the crisis that is taking place in Khartoum, the crisis that is in Sudan is well managed by the African Union in a covert way. Remember, President Macron visited Germany. While in Germany, where the AU chairperson Mohamed Faki comes from, his country, where he was a foreign minister, Macron left instructions. The same time Clooney, Pedicast, George Soros representatives were in Germany. 5 days passed. Our report indicates the movement of George Clooney, Pedicast, and George Soros African Open Society Foundation representatives. Millions of dollars were left in the capital city, Jamena. As you know very well, President Isi Dabri is on a wanted list by the United States of America for receiving a bribe of $2 million to secure oil contracts from President Museveni and others. It's a shame for an African head of state to be bribed $2 million to look for contracts, which is usually done by lumpens and petty bourgeois who walk about the streets looking for contracts, selling contracts, and selling hot air. As you are aware, the plot thickened. It thickened to the level that today, as we speak, what is happening in Khartoum, if we are not careful, it will explode, and it could bring Africa to another Libyan scenario in Khartoum. The situation, however, at the end, President Bashir was troubled. He's in prison, but the demonstrators have not left. Why? African Union rushed to give condemnation to the American, to the army military people, to tell them to give power back to the civilians. The purpose of a strategy to dismember Sudan was, if you handed over power to these civilians who don't know what an office is. If you look at the young men speaking on microphones from Khartoum, they look so confused that if you handed them the entire Sudan, we shall have very many dead bodies flowing in the River Nile. It is therefore very sad that as we sit here, Africa is bleeding and bleeding indeed. The Central African region. Central African Republic is the gold mine of the French extension and operations. 2 to 4 Boeing and some Airbuses. 2 Airbuses always fly into Banjul Airport. They go there to pick up diamonds. There is nothing, no tourism in Banjul because the city is ever under gun fire. So there are no tourists you carry from Paris into Banjul. Tell me why 2 320 Airbuses are all the time leaving, 2 landing. What for? To carry the diamonds. We wish them the best, but time will tell as to why the people of Africa are being persecuted. The situation of Central Africa is very dire. It calls for us Africans to stand up to make sure that Africa changes its approach towards the conflicts that have put us back, that are making us to go and borrow money from China from time to time. A country like a Democratic Republic of Congo would be giving us enough money. Instead, it is at war. They have put it at war such that it cannot lend any African any money. Another country that I said before I wind up my presentation and leave the report and hand dedicate the report to the people of Africa is Libya. The situation in Libya is worrying, more worrying than we hear on the news. General Khalifa Haftar, an American by naturalization, an American passport holder, has been armed, equipped, supplied, and directed by the French ships that are on the Mediterranean Sea, by air, by land, and by all means, from Benghazi to Tripoli, to kill the government that we actually, all of us in Africa, recognized as the government in Tripoli. The entire African Union recognized the government in Tripoli. The dead bodies that you see lying now on the streets as by the screen are coming from the shellings that General Haftar is shelling Tripoli, a government we recognized. I want to ask Africa, I want to ask African Union, what is it that you want? You want us to do what? We recognized Tripoli as a government. Then we have allowed Benghazi, a rebel, General Haftar, who has done deals, who has sold the oil fields of Satya, Benghazi, and the desert to the people we know. They give them satellite systems to go and attack the same government that we recognized. Is this not a shame to Africa? If it's not a shame to AU, is it not a shame to General Alita Assisi, the chairman of African Union, whose troops from Egypt and whose bases from Egypt are being used to attack the government in Tripoli? Is it not a shame? Africa, is this not a shame that you have an African chairman of the African Union posing as General Assisi of Egypt, frustrating the entire peace process, supporting a rebel to attack a recognized government in Africa? Is this not a crisis? Is this not a crisis to Africa? Viewers, in my report about Libya, it is very clear that Libya needs help. Libya is one of those countries that need help today I want to finally touch on the French-Africa relations. In our second dossier, we documented the bank statements, the flow of the money, which you can get on our website. In this document, we have also documented what an open violation of policies of the AU, where a foreign non-power is struggling to the extent that another power called Italy called on it to leave Africa because the Italians support the government in Tripoli, while the French oppose the government and support the government in Benghazi. It is a shame that the French, as much as we have no problem personally with them, we have a problem with their foreign policy that fragments Africa, that destroys Africa, that puts Africa at a conflict, that makes Rwanda and Burundi not to talk. As we sit here today, Rwanda and Burundi are not talking. There is a proxy war, not even a proxy. As we sit here today, Uganda and Rwanda are not talking. People are exchanging dead bodies. Rwandese are being killed. Ugandans are saying they are killed here. Ugandans also say Rwanda is killing our people. Who is making these countries in the region not to talk? If I'm not mistaken, you already know the answer. And that answer is in it there. The troop movement of rebel activities around the Congo border talks it all. The relationship, the closure of the Rwanda-Uganda border explains it all. What do we do as Africans? Do we sit and fold our hands? My fellow Africans, in my conclusion, the report is huge. It is 29 pages. It needs you to read sentence page by page. But I have given you the executive summary of what belongs, what is in this report. It touches about sexual abuses, corruption within the AU Council, Commission, the favoritism, nepotism, the refusal of accepting English-speaking countries in jobs, the tapping of phones, the exchange of money coming, misuse of funds. I remember President as Miriam enters the stage, you are being asked to come and interrogate me on a number of issues that you feel you have not exhaustively done so. The report, therefore, is here, and I commend it to the public and the international community that I've done my best. May God help me, and may God help you also. This report can be found on www.panafricanforumltd.com. I repeat, the report can be found on the website www.panafricanforumltd London Tango Denmark.com LTD. You can find it, you can read it exhaustively. If you have any queries, you can write it to us. We don't have a disclaimer. We are all right. Because we have facts. All what we seek is a commission of inquiry. And we carry our documents, and here we are, we come, man. We are ready. I've been challenging the ICC to call for international commission of inquiry. They can't call. because we shall have Maina Kiai and Mutua and the rest of these malcontents who smell NGO money everywhere. They will lose their integrity in Africa. Let's take a break. When I come back, I will now take questions from you. By the way, I've been told that we can also join in people through our website. I don't know why we have my technical team. Can you look at me and tell me whether we can bring people from the website and they join in the talk? I've been told, but we haven't maybe prepared for that, because people could be asking questions direct from the website, from the Facebook. They could call us and say hello, and we answer them. But thank you very much. If you want to call us, if you have Skype, you can Skype and ask any questions. Thank you. The report is therefore dedicated to Africa, and I leave it there. Can we have the song as Miriam comes in? Welcome back, viewers. I have done my bit. She has listened. I think it is time for her to ask questions if there is anything. Otherwise, that's my statement. That is what I have managed. I have told the world that there is a catastrophe. African Union, things have not gone very well. It's up to Africans to find out why things are like as they are in the AU. And that is my position as an African. There is nothing, I have no regrets at all for what has happened, for what I've said, because I have facts that I can table before a commission of inquiry. if it is ever called, to find out as to why a state, non-African state power has captured the African Union Secretariat to the extent that they can't condemn such a thing like the one in southern Cameroon, and they cannot condemn the Libyan invasion by General Khalifa Haftar. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, and thank you so much, Doctor. Such a brave thing that you've done on behalf of Africa, and I think you've asked very important and raised very important and pertinent questions that Africa are concerned about when it comes to the leadership of the AU and exactly where their priorities are. Because when you see when they meet, even just recently after the 32nd meeting summit in Addis Ababa, and we were thinking, or we were hoping that they would address some of the most pressing issues in the continent. They failed to do that. When they were meeting, there was a heightened war in Biafra land. There was some skirmishes in Amazonia. There was problems in Libya. That didn't seem to, even in Sudan at that time, even in Algeria at that time, but that didn't seem to be, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, remember, after the elections and the acrimony that followed that, that never formed a part of the priority when they met earlier in February this year for their 32nd summit. And so a lot of Africans were wondering, really, so who are they talking on their behalf? Because there are things that worry us, and we were hoping when they meet, these leaders, when they meet, they'll be able to address some of these issues. So our viewers here have been writing and have been engaging with you as you were going through with the show. And the others who just want to know, what are some of the changes that perhaps should be made in the African Union to make sure this organization actually serves us as a continent?
First of all, we have to get our own funding, and that funding has to be got. If we don't have the funding, then we have a problem here. One of the things that we have in this place is we don't have the funding. That's why you see a mafia, criminals, thugs, groups have entered the African Union. They bring money to blindfold the institution from not acting on situations like the one in South Sudan, in Cameroon, Libya, and elsewhere in Africa. So we need to get our own funding such that AU can be able to stand on its own without being subjected to very dangerous toxins that have created a home of criminals in Africa.
All right, so I'll just go through a lot of our viewers who are asking the questions while you were continuing with the presentation. And Galdino Sabit, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You're saying Pan-Africanism has to be resurrected to provide a united leadership of beleaguered people under one nation and one people. So will true Pan-Africanism be the solution to some of these problems plaguing this country? Patriotism or Pan-Africanism?
It's not there. The Nkrumah one, the Nyerere one, the NASA one, the Jomo Kenyatta one, the Obote one, the Patrice Lumumba one, Kabura, Sekuture, it's gone. Mandela one, Mugabe one, it's gone. We don't have it. We have people looking for positions. We have people, this man came and took of African Union. Mrs. Dlamini Zuma was there, but she was also leaning on the French side, because the French promised her to have a government in South Africa. And unfortunately, when she reached there, the same French played with Ramaphosa and allowed Ramaphosa to take 51%, and she got 49. Have you seen how we are played? She lost. She let us down in as a woman. We thought she was one of the people who could clean up African Union. She also left a mess in African Union. She took sides in African Union. She did not stand from Dr. Jinping. African Union, Dr. Jinping sold Gaddafi. Dr. Jinping sold Taylor. Dr. Jinping destroyed African Union. He went up to Gabon to kill 400 Gabonians. They died because of an election. Dr. Jinping killed 400 Gabonians. They are dead. They are in the grave. Nobody has sanctioned him. Dr. Jinping delayed a plane of African heads of state which was going to pick Gaddafi. Gaddafi would have not died He delayed even Wetangula. Mr. Wetangula was in that plane in Mali.
The Mr. Wetangula now.
And the coup took place in Mali. You remember when he sent a message that he prayed for me? We actually prayed for him to leave him to come and steal gold. So it is, God has helped us quite a lot. The presidents, 5 presidents of African heads of state were going to pick Gaddafi. Dr. Jean Ping brought so many conflicts. Look at the conflict in DRC. Look at the conflict in Sierra Leone. Look at the conflict in Liberia. Look at the conflict in Central African Republic. Look at the conflict in what can I mention for you?
All right, so Samuel Lay, you're saying OAU, sorry, it's metamorphosized. It's now African Union. It used to be the Organization of African Unity, but now it's African Union, and you're saying it's just a hoax and fake because, if I may ask, which country has AU solved any problem in Africa? Is there something that we can say the AU, or a country that we can say that the AU was able to intervene, and bring change? Because initially when it was the OAU, they had a lot of parameters they could not cross, especially when it comes to the sovereignty of different countries. And then they realized that when, especially the countries that were involved in civil wars, and they could not just stand out and see as humanitarian crisis continued. And so that's why it was changed to the AU. And the AU they have a mandate, and they can intervene in countries that under humanitarian, that are in a humanitarian crisis and try to bring change there. They can actually forcefully do that. But so far, which country, one of our viewers want to know, that we can say that AU has successfully intervened and actually brought change or brought peace or made any difference? Is there?
None. Show me. None.
All right, Kulusaki.
Where has it gone? Where? It's none.
So they do not have a success story.
Where? No, show me success story. Where? Somalia is still going on. Mm-hmm. Where did they come? Kenya, here they came. They brought a man. He stole an envelope. They left us in chaos. Rwanda, they watched while it was being cut to pieces. Mm-hmm. Democratic Republic of Congo, Ngoma, Nkunda. Where is Nkunda? South Sudan, they sent Obasanjo. Where is Obasanjo report? Let's go. Mission. Show me. Nigeria, Biafra, it's bleeding. Southern Cameroon, Amazonia, 3 years ago, when I started this television, 3 years ago, South Cameroon was bleeding. And I called on AU to intervene. They failed. Let's go. Show me one country. You are saying, show me. Zimbabwe. They never succeeded. They never did anything. No sanctions were removed by me, who went to the European Court of Justice and filed an application. Dr. David Matsanga versus the General Court. And the 27 heads of state, 27 judges, when they read my document, they ran off. They said, go and discuss this thing politically, because we could issue a suspension of sanctions, and this guy will take a lot of money. Mm-hmm. As I was in the court, they gave me a shocker. Baroness Catherine, my friend, called the Foreign Affairs ministers to come quickly the following morning to pass a resolution that sanctions against all Zimbabweans except Mugabe and the wife have been removed.
And some of his ministers.
Yes.
Yes, Kulasaki Wahab Alege, you're saying you're South Sudanese and you're watching us from India, Delhi. Indeed, AU is to blame for all what is happening to Africa with all the suffering. Because the leaders, I think, they feel they can do whatever they want and nobody will hold them into account. They'll not be held accountable. So they do whatever they want with impunity. And when the leadership of the AU is made up of these leaders across Africa, that some of them have very terrible records when it comes to democracy and good governance in their countries. And so, Uhuru Elfaz, you're saying you're waiting for the situation in Somalia And Samuel Ashu Unko, you're saying, no, the 20th of May 2019, a 4-month-old baby was shot 8 times in the head in Cameroon. I think we read this in a news a few days ago. Very sad situations there. And I think even people from Amazonia, they are wondering what really is happening. Who will speak for us, especially in the African continent? And I know we do a lot of that, but they were hoping maybe someone in the leadership of AU will somehow catch some sense and see the suffering that is happening in the Anglophone region in southern Cameroon and speak on their behalf.
We have tried our level best. We have exposed the dangers of southern Cameroon falling into a conflict which is sharper than the one in the Central African Republic. But nobody has come to our rescue. You can't even tell me AU can stop a fly from biting someone. It's a very useless body.
Yes.
It goes for elections, it declares elections, then they come back and say, don't go and see that swearing in. You look at that.
That was such a bad move.
Don't go and see the swearing in in Congo, because France has told them that tall man from Chad, that thief, a thief, because I've got a dossier of what the son did in Chad and South Africa. For being a parent, I've excluded
Faki's son.
Yes.
Muhammad.
And if Faki you talk too much, I will bring it out. It will embarrass you. You resign in one day. So let's leave it that way, please.
Maker Mayom wants to know, does African Union Commission, Mr. Faki, have a sense of nationalism or Africanism really?
There is nothing. It died with those guys. This one is just a money-making, milking, pumping station.
All right.
Yes.
Alad, you're saying you supported last time through PayPal. Thank you so much. PayPal. It's not PayPal. It's PayPal. I think they want to say that last month.
It's called PayPal.
It's PayPal. Thank you so much for your support.
The what?
PayPal.
What did he do?
Aladi is saying, I supported last time through PayPal. He's written PayPal, but I think he means PayPal.
Stephen knows about that.
Yes.
Stephen, the man supported us through PayPal.
Thank you so much.
Can you check, please, because he needs to be acknowledged.
Yes, and
I don't control PayPal. There is my production general manager who does that. But I think there was something, a name of that nature, I think.
And on behalf of the manager, we appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
We shall get into the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
And if you can send us your name properly,
yes,
then we can check.
We can make a mention properly on air.
And continue doing so. Don't give this money to the wealthy already there. Send it to us so that we can send one journalist. We can pay food for the journalist to go into those African areas to bring us such evidence. You know, this is a very good document. Very well done. I've done it at night. I've been collecting data systems. You need to read and enjoy. Enjoy. Then when you see that African Union, I don't want to use any signs here.
Just wave. Don't do anything else with your hand. Bismarck Bura has just written something here. Very worth. He's saying a dependent organization cannot be decisive in setting its own agendas. Self-reliance is a key to independence and decision-making. AU being dependent on funds from external powers is just a toothless bulldog. Very true.
Yes. A
toothless.
Woo! It is woo!
Very valid, yeah.
Yes, woo!
Even the
bulldog.
back is not very
it a
strong.
German bulldog?
The German Shepherd.
Oh,
that one, you don't play with that.
Oh, yes, I think that one can bite.
There's a toothless bulldog.
Yes. Thank you very much, viewers. There you are, you can see.
Yes.
I have been telling you that Africa needs... Look at the war. Jermaine, are you people seeing a war in East Africa anytime? The two mighty armies. The two mighty armies in the region, battle-hardened, all speak the same language, cousins. They are now saying you killed our person. And another one said, you killed our person. Have you seen what the war? Do you see the war?
You mean Rwanda and Uganda?
Yes.
Yes. And the border is closed still.
Yeah, it is completed. In fact, it is now sealed.
And when they were delivering this body, they had to bring EU officials.
Exactly.
Officials,
So
United Nations
why don't we
officials.
go back to the Cold War and have the Berlin Wall?
We don't need that.
And why is Africa keeping quiet when you see a superpower coming into the region, having a proxy war, making Burundi and Rwanda and Uganda and fight to suck in the rest? Even Kenya might be sucked in. Tanzania will be sucked in. South Africa is sucked in the war.
So South Africa is very sucked in.
Yes, because
They've
South
been having a
Africa
problem
doesn't
with
like
Rwanda.
Rwanda.
They've been having problems.
We are
with
sucked
Rwanda.
in. It's a suck in. There must be one person to speak. There must be a courageous man to stand up and speak. Because I've seen quite a lot. My background has sharpened me, has given me experience to talk that a conflict is not very good. There is a war between Uganda and Rwanda. It will happen anytime. And it will take a small accident.
Yes.
That the two mighty armies will unleash the power to be.
Now they're just looking for a trigger.
Yes. I see it coming. If they can reach an extent of calling EU to be there before the body is handed, they can talk. I am ready to talk. I am ready to stand between Kagame and Museveni. I am ready. I am a neutral man from eastern Uganda. I have nothing against any of you. Imagine that. I will talk and bring peace. Free. I will go to Kigali. It will come back. We are all brothers. Why are we fighting? Why are we fighting? This war is going to come. Don't you see it? There is a president in Africa who does not leave his kitchen.
Burundi president.
And he doesn't leave his toilet. Because if he leaves to go to the toilet, somebody will take the chair. Nkurunziza in Burundi is a lame president. He was asking for $280,000 to run an election, which one businessman in Kenya can pay. He can't travel. He can't live in his toilet.
He can't do business on behalf of his country.
Yeah, he has got to lock his wife inside. They do all the things, even the shopping mall is inside. This is for serious, Miriam. We are in a very terrible state.
It is. Actually, it's very serious. It's very serious right now. Shalbreak Gabriel, thank you so much. Let us know your thoughts on the report that Dr. Matsanga just shared a while ago on the happenings and the worrying things that happen in the AU. I don't know what your thoughts are in that. Aladi, you're saying your name is Zurike, George Yamadi from Biafra. Please support Biafra. Yes, and we are supporting Biafra. Please let us know, is there anything that has happened today in Biafra land before we just exit? And yeah, tomorrow is sit at home. I think according to your leader, yes, tomorrow they're having a sit at home. Tomorrow you're having a sit at home.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yes. Alanda. We have seen your payment. Eladu.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and we acknowledge. For us, we are transparent. We don't operate like the French. We are open. Even if you send, the only thing we shall not announce is the amount.
Bonjour. They're not transparent?
Yes.
Okay.
They are very transparent to frogs.
That is hate speech.
It's not. I don't,
it's a delicacy.
That is their problem.
And rats.
If they
delicacy.
Delicacy. A rat is not a delicacy to any Kenyan. Is there any Kenyan who eats a rat here? You eat a rat, except this BBC reporter. What is his name?
Larry Madivo.
Larry Madivo. You know that's why they cannot have even anything. They are useless. You eat a rat can contaminate your I can't tell you now.
He said it tastes like chicken.
Well, I cannot tell you on the set. Ask me off set.
Okay. So you said if our viewers wants to get the full dossier, where can they go? Where can they get the full report?
I don't like this. It is becoming too much.
I'm just trying to get away from the rat thing. It's just
because you brought it.
okay,
Miriam.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
The rat?
It's just terrible.
You can't eat a rat. I can't eat a crocodile.
A crocodile is good.
No!
Crocodile meat.
An animal that eats another person and you are watching.
Ooh. When you put it like that now, it's not
A
good.
human being is swallowed by a crocodile. Then you go and eat the meat. You are eating a human being.
You don't say. Now you just spoiled my dinner.
You were going to eat crocodile?
I might become a vegetarian. All right, we thank you. So, where can they get the full dossier? The
full dossier is, and we need a picture with you now so that it can go viral. Yes.
I don't want to trend.
You need to trend.
I don't need to.
You will
trend.
never run away from me.
From trending.
From trending.
Okay.
Yes, we better color the place.
When you put it like that, I feel like bringing a therapist to mediate.
Can somebody, where is Mr. Ngara? Is it Ngara Gare? Mm-hmm. There is Nganga.
Oh, Nganga
George. Mr. Nganga, can you become a therapist in the middle?
No, Nganga will we need a neutral person.
Nganga is interested. He has interest. Can we have a photograph, Sam?
That's not my words. Those accusations are serious, you know.
Someone can take us a photo.
Yes, but before we do, the report about the AU and the happenings, African Union sacks corrupt chief of staff, right? That's what they did. African Union sacks corrupt chief of staff, spy, master general of a foreign power, Pan-African Forum. So this is an investigative report on espionage, corruption, poor governance, and administrative gangsterism and organized managerial chaos of the African Union Commission. All right, so you can get, and this is part 3.
Yes.
Yes, because
and the part 1 and the part 2 are on the website.
Okay.
So you follow up, and there will be the final part. We are still conducting the investigations.
All right. That was really brilliant. I was listening to it while
you will read it. Mm-hmm. It is Stephen can make copies for you. Mm-hmm. It's now publicized with the best English.
Stephen, dear, I'll appreciate.
Shakespearean English. Give me the 5 confabulations.
Okay, good.
You know that word?
Yes.
Very good. Shakespearean English. It's not a joke.
Good.
Yes.
Good job.
So, viewers, thank you very much. This has been Matsanga Africa Perspective, a show that talks about Africa, a show that engages about Africa. We come to the end of this show. We have done our bit, and we would like to notify all our people that there will be.
You're multitasking.
Yes, you can finish.
All right, men cannot multitask, so he had to stop talking for him to do that. But I can do both and several. But we want to thank you so much for your company this afternoon, and hopefully you can meet here tomorrow for another edition of Good Morning Africa with the latest news from the motherland.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. You forgot you were signing out and you started taking water. You really Mr. Steven, what is the problem? You seem to be laughing. He forgot. then he's so busy talking.
She was the one to sign out. Now, have you done the can I have my flashy disk?